So today we're going to be talking about how to break out of the lower class. And I just want to say the best way to do this that I recommend to people is to educate yourself or learn a more valuable skill in order to earn more money. However, this is not the strategy I'm going to discuss in this video because this is a way that anyone who is in the lower class, anyone who's not making enough money, can get out of their current situation and get out of the lower class. So while I do recommend educating yourself to earn more money because that will help you in the long run, that's typically a long-term investment. I mean, if you decide to go to college, that's a multiple-year investment, and you can do things to improve your situation in the meantime or in a shorter amount of time. So I wanted to give more broad advice that would help people in general, aside from just telling you to go out there and get a college degree or get a certification of some kind. So this is a 4-step process that should help you get out of your current income situation if you're someone who is falling into the lower class, if you don't have enough money, if you're paycheck to paycheck, and you just can't seem to get by. But the first thing I want to do is actually define what the lower class is. So if we take a look at the division of wealth here, I kind of drew this chart here as in that top sliver there being the top 1%. So if you're in the upper class, if you're in the top 1% of earners, that's a household income of $390,000 or more. And then we have below that is the upper 20%, that is the upper middle class. That's a household income of $100,000 or more, but no more than $390,000. And then we have the middle class. The middle class is the middle 40%. That is a household income between $35,000 and $100,000. And then we have the lower class and the bottom, which is the poverty line. This video could help people in the middle class as well who want to push their way into the upper class, or people who want to just earn more money and be able to stop maybe living paycheck to paycheck. So if you're in the lower class, you're making between $19,000 and $35,000 household income, and the poverty line is around $19,000. So below that, you're under the poverty line. So it really isn't necessarily me telling you how to earn more money. It's how to be more responsible with the money that you have. It doesn't matter. You could be making $60,000 and be paycheck to paycheck, and you could make $200,000 and be paycheck to paycheck. That's more on your financial education and what you're doing with your money. It doesn't matter how much you make, it matters how much you spend and what you're keeping and what you're doing with your money. So that's kind of what I'm going to discuss with this video. But I want to throw a couple statistics at you that were very surprising to me. First of all, 49% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So basically, all the money they have coming in goes towards their expenses, and there's nothing left over at the end of the week. So what does that mean? That means that they're one major expense away from going into debt because they don't have a savings, they're paycheck to paycheck. That just blew my mind that half of the people out there, 1 in 2 people that you see, are one expense away from going into debt because they're paycheck to paycheck. That is a problem, ladies and gentlemen. That is a problem. And I think that if you guys are smart about what you're doing with your money, you can avoid being someone who is paycheck to paycheck. So what does that mean if 49% of Americans are paycheck to paycheck? What it means is it's not just the lower class. Because if we look at this, the lower class is the lower 39%. But 49% of Americans are paycheck to paycheck. So it's a division across all the different classes. It doesn't matter how much money you make, you could still live paycheck to paycheck if you're irresponsible with the money you're earning. So don't think this is just a problem for the lower class. You could be making a very small amount of money, but you might be responsible with that money, and as a result, you are actually saving money, and you have savings, and you have a rainy day fund, and you are not what's considered paycheck to paycheck, which is good. The average debt per credit card in the United States is $4,061. And remember, most of us have more than one credit card. So the average balance being over $4,000 is just astounding. Hopefully you're not someone in that situation, but if you are, I'm going to show you how to improve that situation and how to stop living paycheck to paycheck and kind of break out of that lower class and maybe, make more money. So the first thing you can do that I recommend is to pay off all of your debt. So how do you do this? The first thing you should do is make a list of everything you owe. Write it down on a list. Also write down the list of the balances as well as the interest rates, and then pay off the high interest debt first or do debt consolidation. There's services out there where they can collectively pool all of your debt together, hopefully at a lower combined interest rate than you were paying individually, and then you start making your payments. You want to avoid the trap of making the minimum balance as far as the payment on your credit cards, because when you're doing that, you're paying mostly interest and barely any principal. That's a surefire way to be paying that card off for many years. So you want to make sure you're paying at least the minimum balance and hopefully significantly more. And then what you also want to do is, if you're in the process of paying off debt, if you're in the process of paying off your credit cards, stop using your credit cards. Don't use them at all, okay? So I just want to give you guys an example here of what credit card debt looks like if you're someone who's not familiar. So the average credit card interest rates on a low to high range, the low range average was 13.24% per year, and the high range is 22.99%. So let's say you're someone who is in a serious problem, okay? You have $50,000 in credit card debt. How much is that burdening you? How much is that dragging you down? Is this the reason that you're in the lower class? Is this the reason you're not able to save up money and maybe pay for a college education or get yourself moving? Because the thing is, when you invest in yourself, that costs money. So if you're someone who wants to invest in a college education, you need to save up the money to do that. So maybe you're trying to improve your situation, but you don't have any money. Maybe it's because you have debt dragging you down. So if you have $50,000 at 13.24% interest, you're paying $6,620 a year in interest. That's how much you're paying every year without 1 penny of principal. That is $0 of principal right there. That is all interest, or $551 a month. For some people, that's a car payment, a very expensive car payment. For others, it may be your rent or your mortgage, depending on where you live. But let's say you're on the high end. You're on the high interest rate average of 22.99%. That's $11,495 a year before you even touch the principal, that $50,000. That's almost $1,000. That's $958 a month that person would be paying in credit card interest because they're $50,000 in debt. That is why it is crucial to get on top of your debt before you do anything else, because that's where your money's going. That is where your money's going. If you are paycheck to paycheck and you're in debt, you need to get rid of that debt and stop contributing to it by getting rid of those credit cards. That is the first thing you need to do if you're trying to improve your income situation. All right, so now that you are getting your debt under control, what is the next step? The next step is to budget your money. So what do I mean by this? It's very simple. I want you to collect all of your bills, your statements, as well as your receipts. Now, if you're someone who is not keeping these things, I want you to start doing that today, okay? Get a shoebox, hopefully a little more organized than a shoebox. Get a system to organize all of your bills, all of your statements and your receipts. If you have online banking, you can get a history of all of your statements, and oftentimes they're itemized, and you can sort them too and see where your money is going. If you're not tracking it, you have no idea where it's going. You can't just say, oh, my money is disappearing. Because unless you're getting it stolen from you, like the cash is physically being taken out of your pockets, then it's going somewhere, and you need to figure out where your money's going, okay? Then what you want to do is determine your cash flow. So how much cash is going in and how much cash is going out. If you're paycheck to paycheck, it's all going out. If you're in debt, more is going out than is coming in. So if that's the case, you need to have less money going out or figure out how to get more money coming in. But the first thing you need to do is figure out how to get less money going out, because if there's a way to do that, that's a good way to get started. And then when you have more money coming in, it's more money in your pocket or more money that you're going to be investing. We're going to talk about that in a second. So what I also recommend is, if you can, go back a couple months, go back a year if you're ambitious. Figure out where your money is going. Figure out how much money you're spending. Maybe you spend a ton of money on the holidays. Maybe you spend a ton of money in the summer going to bars and doing things. Figure out, where is your money going? What are you doing with your money? Why is there more money going out than there is coming in? And then what you want to do is list all of your expenses. Also remember that there are monthly and annual expenses. So maybe you're someone who pays your insurance every 6 months. Maybe you pay for memberships to certain websites, certain services once a year. Make sure you factor those expenses in. So if it's an annual expense, divide it by 12 and figure out what it would cost you each month, and then set aside money for that. But we're going to talk about that in a second, setting aside money for planned expenses. That's something else you're going to have to do. But I want to show you guys something very important here. Many people don't realize this, but there's a difference between fixed expenses and discretionary expenses. So what are fixed expenses? These are your necessary expenses. These are things you need to stay alive. These are things you need no matter what. So this is your mortgage. This could be your utilities. So maybe that's your water bill, your power bill, your gas bill. That's your insurance for your car, your insurance for your home. That's any loans you're paying back. Maybe you have student loans. That's your household expenses. That's your groceries. That's your car loan, things like that. Some of these fixed expenses can be lowered. For example, the amount you're spending on groceries, the amount you're spending on a luxury vehicle if you have a car that is beyond what you really need. So then you also want to look at your discretionary expenses. This is where you're really going to find a lot of stuff you can get rid of. This is the optional expenses. Guys, this is the alcohol. This is the dining. This is the entertainment, the luxury, the convenience. Maybe you're a smoker. Maybe you smoke, things other than cigarettes. Those are things that you are spending money on that are optional expenses. And if more money is going out than is coming in, you really need to get control of your discretionary expenses. So I want you to analyze your fixed expenses, figure out where you can lower those. Maybe you're buying name brand groceries and you could settle for the whatever the store brand is. Maybe you're spending $100 a week on alcohol and dining. Maybe you want to quit smoking and save $10 a day. That's where you need to find the money. You need to figure out where your money's going, okay? And then eliminate stuff. Get rid of stuff you don't need, or, do less of it. Do less entertaining. Do less dining. Once you've done that, why are you doing this? I want to show you guys what you're trying to accomplish here. You're trying to accomplish a positive cash flow. Right now you have a break-even or a negative cash flow if you're in a bad situation. So let's do this as an example right here. This is someone with $2,500 that comes in. That's their cash in every month, okay? And they're in a paycheck-to-paycheck situation because they have some debt. They're paying $500 a month in credit card debt, and they're paying down their balance. And then they have $2,000 of expenses, all right? So their first step, if you follow this, is to get rid of your debt. So let's say over time they're working on paying down their debt. They get it down to a $300 a month payment because they're getting their balance down. And then they get to a point where they have no debt at all. They have $0 in debt. They're not paying any money in interest. Now you have a surplus coming in there. You have a surplus of cash that was originally going towards debt that's now not going towards anything. So at first you were spending it all on debt. Now you had a $200 surplus once you're getting your bills paid down. And once you're debt free, there's a $500 surplus of money right there. The second step here was to budget your money. That's where you're taking a look at your expenses. So let's say you're someone who has a lot of discretionary expenses. You have $2,000 going out. So let's say you're someone who decides, okay, I'm going to quit smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. That's $300 a month right there. Next thing you know, you have a $300 surplus, plus your $200 because you're down on your debt as well. Now you have a $500 a month surplus. Now let's say you figure out, okay, I have even more discretionary expenses, things I don't need to be doing. I'm spending a lot of money on dining and alcohol. You figure out how to find another $200 a month. This is $50 a week. This is not a lot of money. That's one night out a week for most people. Next thing you know, you're debt free and you found $500 worth of discretionary expenses that you don't need. You now have a $1,000 a month cash surplus. But what do you do with your surplus? That's the biggest thing. What do you do with that? The very next thing you're going to do is set up a rainy day fund, because when do we use credit cards? We use credit cards when we're overextended, when we can't afford to pay for something. So you want to save up a 6-month cash surplus, enough money to cover all of your expenses for 6 months. I don't care if it takes you a year, 2 years to save this up, whatever it takes, you need this. This is an absolute necessity because you're preventing the need for future credit. You're preventing this from happening again. And the way I wanted to show this to you guys as well here, if you take a look at this, what your idea here is to burn the candle at both ends and shrink both your debt as well as your expenses. But you want to eliminate the need for credit cards in the future. And what you can do, if you need to draw from that rainy day fund, I recommend extending yourself a line of credit. Paying yourself that interest. That's going to discourage you from using it for things you really don't need to. This is for absolute emergencies. This is like you lose your job or next thing you know, your furnace goes out. Although your furnace, that's what I say, set aside money for planned expenses. So if you know your appliances or your roof is going bad, start setting aside money for that in a separate account. This is like I lost my job type money, okay? This is like dire straits. I need to put food on the table for my family. This is not I want the new iPhone or I want to go on vacation. And to discourage yourself from doing that, charge yourself a 20% interest rate on that, but pay yourself that interest. So let's say you have $10,000 in there and you take money out, maybe you put $11,000 back because you charged yourself interest, and you just build that cash cushion because you're eliminating that need to use credit cards in the future. You're never going to put yourself in this situation again. Once you do that, once you have a 6-month rainy day fund, what's the next thing you want to do? You want to invest, all right? I recommend the first thing you do is invest in yourself, because what you're going to do is you're going to increase your cash in. You're going to increase how much money you're making. But the most important part, guys, you're not going to increase your standard of living, all right? This is the mistake that everyone makes. This is the step that nobody follows. This is why 49% of Americans are paycheck to paycheck because they increase their standard of living. They make more money and they go, okay, I deserve a nicer house. I deserve a nicer car. I'm going to buy more things. They're going to consume. And as a result, they're going to have more expenses and they're going to have more money in and they're just going to break even. You could be breaking even on a $20 an hour job. You could be breaking even as a person making $200,000. You could be making money as somebody with a minimum wage job. It doesn't matter. All it comes down to is your financial responsibility at the end of the day. But I encourage you guys first to invest in yourself. The idea is to learn more and earn more. So what do? You save up, you go get a college education, you get certified in something, you start a business, you do something. I've talked about this so many times on my channel. I constantly throw new ideas at you guys as far as things you can do to earn more money. So I'm not going to get into it in this video. Just check out my channel. You want to maintain your standard of living. That's one of the most important parts, as we said. As you earn more, you want to keep your expenses the same and you want to stay out of debt. And you want to increase your cash surplus. And what do you do with that surplus? You're going to put any surplus, aside from what goes into your rainy day fund and your planned expenses, into assets. What are assets? That could be stocks, it could be bonds, it could be buying houses. You're going to buy things that appreciate in value. Another thing you want to look at is the difference between assets and liabilities. If you don't understand that, you need to educate yourself on that. I should probably do a video on that as well now that I'm saying that. So I probably will. But you want to put your money into assets, things that appreciate in value. And then what you're going to do is you're going to grow pennies from dollars and reinvest. That's called dividends. That's called earning a return on your investment and reinvesting. And that's how people get freaking rich. They put their money to work. They're not working themselves. And this is the big picture, guys. This is how you go from someone who is in the lower class to getting out of your current situation, to being able to afford an investment in yourself, to being able to afford a college education or certification. Then you're going to figure out how to have control of your money, and then you're going to have a surplus every month that you're going to put into something that's also going to grow in value. And you're going to make money with your money, and you're going to get out of the lower class. You're going to get out of your current income situation. And there it is. That is the solution. That is how you get out of the lower class. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I certainly appreciate those of you who stuck around for the whole video. I know this was a long one, but it was packed with very good information. I think this will help a lot of people. And I hope you guys leave me a comment below and tell me what you think. Are you planning on following any of these steps? And if there's anything you can add as far as tips, maybe you're someone who has been in a situation where you were in debt and you got out of debt, let us know what tips you have. If you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. And as always, I thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video.